Alright guys, so we're back tonight. We got the 912 started, ran it. Seemed to run pretty well. But, of course, as everything I seem to put back together, had a pretty good oil leak. So, it's coming either from the oil pump cover or from the crank seal. So in order to get to that, I can't really see, we're going to have to probably pull this cover off to get the crank pulley off, and then we'll see what it looks like from there. And if we have to, we'll pull the oil pump cover off, because that's all that's here that can leak. So I will get to work on that and hopefully find something easy. So I'm going to start on that. I won't bore you with all the details, and we'll be back in a few, see what we find. Okay, I was pretty quickly able to take this apart and get the crank pulley off there, and it just so happens when I pulled it off, the keyway was facing up, and the key, I don't know if you can see that, let me try to get a little better angle, that thing is not in there flat. So somehow when this went back together, actually I guess what I saw first was that's my crank pulley. Got a big chunk blown out of it. So I guess the key turned up and blew that chunk of the crank out, and as you can see from the sealing surface, that's where the seal rides. And what I don't know is where that piece went. I didn't see it anywhere. I don't think there's any way it could have gone inside the engine. But I need to go do some research. The seal actually looks okay. So I'm going to do some research and see if I can buy either a used pulley, or I might be able to fix this thing. It feels like cast iron. I might be able to take it to work and weld it and turn that back down and polish that sealing surface. So either way, I see a new seal in my future. And then we'll go from there. Alright everybody, we're back on the 912 project. We've taken a little time off, mainly because had to repair a little problem I found with the oil leak once we started the car up. So I pulled the, where we had the oil leak, pulled the crank pulley off, and discovered the reason for the oil leak was a big chunk of the front pulley was gone. Well, these things are like 300 bucks used on eBay. So what I did, let me bring you over where you can see a little better, is since it blew out the keyway and this thing's cast iron, I took it to work, and first I tried to weld it up with silicone bronze filler, which welded fine, even though cast iron is kind of tricky to weld. Welded fine, but it was about impossible to machine. So I ground all that back off and went back in. I took a nickel welding rod, I believe it was nickel 55, and broke the flux off of it and used that as a filler, and was able to weld up somewhat of a sealing surface. Of course, during all that, the pulley cracked, and it may have already been cracked before, but I noticed it. I don't know if that was chucking it up in the lathe, because every time I'd weld this, I'd have to put it back in the lathe and re-indicate it. So that's silicone bronze that I welded that piece back in with. I'm hoping it'll be okay. Maybe a little out of balance, but I'll look around. Maybe I can do better than 300 bucks on a used pulley. So now we need to get that thing back in there. So this Rhines dude is going to be making a lot of money off me because I bought a ton of seals from him. So here's the new seal. And we got to try to get that thing in there in the car, which is apparently possible. One thing I did is I took a PVC coupling and I put it in the lathe and I parted it off at work. It looks like it's a pretty good fit. I took the seal to work while I was turning this thing down. It's about 48 millimeters. I wanted to make sure I had a good fit. Of course, then I brought it home, and anyway, I had to go back and forth a couple times to get it to fit on the crank, but I think we're good now. So we're going to set up and we'll try to get the seal in the car. That's our access. I'll try to get you in a spot where you can see. Actually, down here might be good. So we'll get ready and we'll come back and we'll try to get this thing put back together. Alright, that thing fit in there incredibly easy, which makes me think we're going to have some other problem. But let me change your vantage point and we'll try to get this pulley and key in there. Following that keyway and the pulley to make sure this thing was going to fit just right. I didn't have a broach to recut it that was the right size. I feel pretty good about that. Let me get the nut and we'll come back, tighten that thing down and put this thing back together and maybe fire it up. Not going to go in that way. Let's see if I can bring it up from the bottom. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'm going to put the car in gear, put the parking brake on. Guess the parking brake's laughing at me. Alright, well, let me get the belt and everything on here. And once I get that on, I can hold it a little better and we'll tighten it up. My 30 millimeter wrench down there on the flywheel nut, the pulley nut. And the one up here on the generator is a 36. And that groove right there is for a screwdriver to fit. It's a special screwdriver. has a kind of a weird offset flat blade, which I broke or lost or something, or it might be in the toolkit. But that's supposed to hold that pulley against something so you can tighten it. Now, go ahead and tighten this crank nut a little bit, crank bolt. All right, I'm gonna call that tight enough to test anyway. All right, let me get some of this debris out of here and we'll do a start and see how our leak looks. All right, we're back together, here goes. Let's hope for the best. Before, oil was pouring out down here. I guess I should have cleaned it off a little better. Alright, I don't see anything. You can kind of look through the flywheel pulley and see, or the crank pulley. All right, good deal. Oil pressure is a little crazy, but that might be my AutoZone oil pressure gauge. But in general, everything looks all right. Good deal.